Hello, let's talk about mobile app development in India and why you should consider it. In this video, we will be talking about the price, what an app development in India could cost, what maybe a single developer would cost, what kind of apps you could develop here, and other interesting information. So maybe the first question you would ask yourself, why do you need an app? There could be many reasons. For example, one could be, of course, that you're in startup and you have a great idea to build a new Uber app or new Facebook app or something else. Another reason could be because, or should be because many people are doing or taking their buying decisions online with the help of a smartphone, right? They might be laying down and just casually browsing and then making a decision to buy something. And also another thing is them companies, it could be used for as a productivity tool, right? For example, someone is driving around and they need to take notes of their deliveries or something like that. So there are many applications of an app, and especially nowadays everyone has a smartphone since Steve Jobs introduced it in around 2006 2008 time. So now everyone has a smartphone and it's really a good idea to have an app. The next question could be, why should you choose India for a place for development? So one reason is there are many developers available, right? For example, there are 1 billion people in India, and there are a lot of colleges, a lot of universities, and especially as India is focused on IT services. Maybe you might already know that. And there are a large number of professional coders available. Of course, you need to make sure to choose the right developers out of these many coders, because there are maybe not everyone might be a great developer, but there are many great developers. And if you are ready to search for them, definitely you will find them. And the quality has also changed over the years, right? If you searched online before, then usually people will be very negative about India and also about its services. And nowadays the quality has improved, and many apps which are being used also in the US and in Europe are sometimes developed completely in India. And also the price was always one reason why companies decided to make software development in India or a mobile app development in India, because it's around, for a long time it was around 70 to 80% cheaper. Now I would say it's around 30 to 50% cheaper, because the prices have increased in India as well, and many more companies in Europe and in US and in all over the world have understood that there are developers available in India. So the demand has increased, and therefore the prices have also gone up as well as the salaries, of course. Another good reason is because in India English is very common. For example, in schools English is taught usually. There are also syllabuses where the local language is taught, but usually parents always prefer to send their school to English medium schools. This is different in China. In China, I think Chinese language is more prominent, and there are not so many English speakers. But in India, that's different. Of course, not everyone has a very good accent or very understandable accent, but most people nowadays, I think, who are in the IT field have a very good English language skill. Of course, when you're looking at a country like India, there are some things you need to make sure of. For example, if you outsource maybe to Switzerland, the chances that you get a bad IT company is very low, because usually only the very good companies will survive there. But in India it's different. There are a lot of different kinds of companies which can give very good quality. There are companies who are very cheap and have very bad quality, right? If you look online, usually there are some people who complain about software development in India, and that is mainly because they are selecting this cheap price, bad quality IT companies. And also one other success factor would be that there should be some quality control on your side. For example, if you have a in-house coder in your company, or if you have a friend who is also a developer, they would be able to look at the code and check that everything is good, which is coming from India. So I would not suggest, if you do not know about coding at all, then maybe it's a bad idea to offshore outsource to India. You should at least know what is coming back. And also another thing is you should take the right offshore outsourcing model. Also there are different type of models. For example, our company Uhiro, what we are doing is like we will hire the right developer for you. For example, if you look for a mobile app developer, we will look here in India for them, and they will be exclusively working for you. But there are also other models where you would outsource the complete project. For example, there are small and medium-sized companies who would take your whole project and they would do the project management, they would do the communication, they would do the planning, they would do this design in Photoshop or Figma or some kind of tool. Then they would create HTML, CSS files. And if it's a mobile app development, they would use Objective-C to program the iOS app. They would use Kotlin or Java to program the Android app if it's a native app development. That would be another model. Then there's other companies like Wipro or Infosys who are really large, and for example other large companies, for example Walmart from US would approach them and tell them, yeah, okay, we need an app development team in India with around 5,000 developers or something, right? So with front-end coders, back-end coders, database engineers, and so on. There's so many developers involved in this. So such a large company like Wipro or Infosys or Tata Consultancy Company would be able to build these kind of large teams, right? So for example, we make smaller teams like maybe 1 to 20 developers or 1 to 50 developers, and they do really big teams like 1,000 or hundreds or maybe 10,000s of people, right? If in Europe a new banking system needs to be, or bank needs to revamp their whole systems, then they would use an offshore outsourcing company, or even Accenture, which has their own development center in India. So that is definitely a success factor, right? If you're a small company, then it would, or a startup, then it would not make sense to approach a very large IT company in India. So you need to select the right offshore outsourcing partner for your purposes. And also some facts and figures. There are around 5 million developers in India. That means they are already in the workforce and working for large and small companies. And you might wonder why there are so many developers in India or software developers. The reason is because actually there's no big industry in India, right? If you know, India was not very rich from, after colonization and independence, it was not very industrialized, so it didn't have much job opportunities, but there were many engineers, right? Many families will send their children to engineering colleges to learn more about engineering, and because it has a high status in India, but there were no jobs. So when IBM saw that in around 1970 or 1980, they thought, okay, why not teach these engineers how to code software? And they started actually this whole process, IBM. And now these people then who were trained started then companies like Infosys and other large IT companies. And now this has grown into a large industry which employs a lot of people. And like China is focused on manufacturing, India is focused on IT and IT services mainly. And the turnover is around 200 billion. I think it's a little bit less than 200 billion, but still 200 billion is a huge number if you compare it even with European standards. This 200 billion figure is very high. And another thing about app development in India and software development in general in India is that it has a very international outlook, right? So usually this whole offshore outsourcing was always done for other countries, like for USA mainly, and then also for Europe, and nowadays even for Arab countries or for other Asian countries, software is developed in India. And as I said, another advantage is the cost savings. Even though the quality has improved, the salaries of app developers has also improved, but still there's still an opportunity to have a savings of around 50 to sometimes even 60%. But I would rather say 30, so 1/3 of the cost you can save to half of the cost. And of course, it's also important to decide on the technology, right? Because if you, for example, go for the hybrid route and develop in Ionic, Flutter, or React Native, then you can write the code in one time and use the code in iOS, Android, and maybe even for the website or for the web application. And if you develop in so-called native app development in iOS or Android, then you need to develop one for iOS, one application for iOS in Objective-C programming language, then maybe Android in Java programming language, and you might need a web application which is programmed maybe in PHP or in some other kind of backend technology which works on the web. And you could even go for cross-platform development, right? So that you can use it in the web, in mobile, in smart devices, maybe smartwatch or something else. So there are different ways how you can approach this. If you're a smaller company, then maybe that hybrid application development might be the best option, because you might not be able to afford an Android developer, an iOS developer, a native app developer, but you could have one hybrid app developer who would develop the backend app. And now the pricing, what can you expect? So if you hire a developer from, for example, from your hero, then we will price on monthly basis. For an Android developer, that could be from around $1,800 to $5,000 per month. But it depends upon the experience of the developer. That's another thing you should also always keep in mind. And sometimes it can even go cheaper. As I said, it's depending upon the salary also of the developer. And if you want a complete mobile app, then maybe we are not the right person or right company to ask, because we are not the ones doing the whole project, right? We are not doing the project management, doing the developers, the front end, back end, and so on. So for that, there are other companies, small and medium-sized companies in India who do mobile app development, and they charge for very small apps around $5,000, I would say, and for like larger apps, they would charge around $200,000 to $300,000, right? But it depends, of course, on your functionalities. And it's also possible to hire. There are some companies who give you the possibility to hire developers on a hourly rate. That we are also not doing. We are only giving the developers on a monthly basis. So these companies will charge around $15 to $70. But I would always go for the companies who charge a little bit more, because then you can make sure that they actually have good developers in their team, right? Because if they only charge a very less amount, then how they are going to pay a salary of a very good developer, that's virtually impossible. So always go for the medium range or even for the upper range to make sure to get really good developers. Yeah, what is your experience? Maybe you have already had some experiences with mobile app development in India, or maybe you're planning to do it. Maybe you can write in the comments what is your experience, and maybe even your suggestions, what has been missed out in this video maybe, and what kind of options, other options there are as well. Thank you for watching.